Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. I'm Erin McCoy, here with my podcast partner, Charles Backway.
Thanks, Erin. Today we're in Parkersburg, West Virginia, sitting in J.P. Henry's restaurant. We're here to talk with Michael Smitty Smith of the Beverage Market. If you haven't heard this name before, the Beverage Market is one of our larger regional beer distributors in West Virginia. And Smitty not only sells craft beer, but I've also found him to be an astute observer of the craft beer industry. And Aaron, we don't often talk to beer distributors on West Virginia Beer Roads, and I expect this conversation today will be a real treat.
Oh yeah, I am really looking forward to it. But before we get to Smitty, I'd like to introduce Maddie, a seasoned employee of J.P. Henry's, who's hosting us today. So Maddie, welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, and thank you for letting us record today's podcast in your restaurant.
Well, thank you for having me. I've worked at JP's for 3 years. It's a great place for fun, food, and atmosphere. On Tuesdays, we have music bingo. So if you haven't played music bingo before, I recommend coming on down and having a try.
Sounds fantastic. Can you maybe give us a little bit of a promo about what keeps this place so popular? Because we understand it's been around for a number of years.
It's been along for a very long time, longer than I've been alive. I would say the beer, the people, it's a very friendly town. A lot of the regulars we have here have been here for years. The beer we have in stock, thanks to this gentleman right here, keeps those customers happy. And food here is great too. I mean, we get new chefs every now and then, so they always have new specials for us to put out on the menu. The location is great. It's just off the interstate, so anytime we get a lot of travelers in here coming from state to state.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it here. It's my favorite place in the world.
Well, we appreciate you hosting us today, so thank you for taking the time to talk a little bit about J.P. Henry's and why it's so fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
And now it's time to introduce today's program guest, Michael Smitty Smith. Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, Smitty, it's great having you on our program today. So take us back to the beginning. How'd you get involved in the beverage industry?
Charles, I've always had an interest in the stories behind the beverage industry, I guess I'll say. I used to enjoy looking at my grandparents' champagne bottles that they saved over the years to remember special occasions. And then one day when I was in college and my dad was dragging on me to find something to do and pay my own bills, I saw an ad in the newspaper that the wine shop at the Capitol Market was hiring a clerk.
That's Capitol Market in Charleston, West Virginia.
Charleston, West Virginia, yes. So I applied for it thinking I had no choice or no chance of getting the job, and convinced Susan McQueen and Jim Battle to hire me and that I would stock diligently.
Take a chance.
And that just sort of helped me expand on my passion about things and learn a little bit more about the different ins and outs of the industry, and I learned a little bit about wine. I'm never ever going to claim I learned a lot about wine, but a little bit. And one thing led to another. I was attending Marshall University, and I had a passion with wine and cocktails and spirits, and I ended up being a bartender at Rocco's Restaurant in Cerrito, Canova.
Oh, and that's one of the better restaurants in West Virginia.
Oh, I could eat there every day still yet. Well, they have quite a ruckus crowd there, and I met one Rob Epperly. He worked for Gallo, previously from Atomic
Distributing in Huntington, West Virginia,
He took a liking to me and convinced me against my will that I needed to bartend some event that they were having, but I didn't realize at the time that he was recruiting me to come work for Republic National Distributing, which is a local distributor of spirits.
Yeah, they sell a lot of spirits all around the country, and they're in about every state, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're one of the largest ones.
Yeah, that's good. So anyway, you moved. How in the world did you get from like a Republic and being a spirits rep get back into the beer side?
The time I spent with Republic, I learned a lot and was able to climb the corporate ladder, I guess you'd say, to the point where I got that there was nowhere else to go within West Virginia without relocating. So regrettably, not totally regrettably, but I left and I ended up interviewing with a couple of the beer houses and got a job with a different beer distributor within Charleston.
Yeah, so you start out there usually when you just first in, you probably were sort of on the bottom of the totem pole and doing a little bit of everything. How'd that to progress to a better job and more responsibilities?
As you say, I did a little bit of everything and learned a lot along the way, made a lot of mistakes, but I met a lot of great people that mentored me, and I learned a lot from them. And as time went on, I ended up progressing to a sales management position, running the on-premise division, which where you really get to, one, connect with the craft breweries and the craft brewery reps and set up events and use your imagination, really.
Yeah, that would allow you to do many things beyond just the straight sales because, like you say, doing events, that's a whole nother world.
Events are just a handful. I mean, without their way, much appreciation to everyone that throws them together. There's so much behind the scenes work involved.
Yeah. How did you get to your current position?
They were bought out in 2017 by another local family, and I worked for them doing same thing, on-premise management. And
right. That's probably when I met you at that era. 2017-ish.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. And it was a good place to work. I enjoyed it, and it continued to grow the bonds with the different brewery reps. And then, like all things, it came to an end when that business also ended up for sale.
It's always a problem. Businesses do sell, and unless you're the owner, you sometimes don't always like the results. But hey, sometimes it's good. I don't know. In this case, what did you do?
Well, after working in the corporate world with Republic Distributing, as much as I enjoyed my time at Republic, I have sort of learned that I prefer to work for a family-driven business. So it just so happened that my competitor was bought by a family that lived locally.
Okay. And that would be, was the Miller House, wasn't it?
Yeah. I flipped
in
to
Charleston, West Virginia, yeah.
Flipped to the Miller House with some arm twists and some nudging. I ended up making the switch, and it's been a great story for me so far ever since.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what the beverage market is as a business, first.
Yeah, Beverage Market's a distributor. It was previously Capital Beverage, so they took over that property, added on to it. We've doubled the size of our warehouse. And since then, we've acquired Atomic Distributing in Huntington, and it goes as Thundering Beverage. And we, as you said, we're the largest distributor in the state by volume, I'm pretty sure.
Smitty, I see that you have one of your beers that has been poured for us to sample today. So why don't you introduce it as Charles and I start to taste it?
Well, this is the quintessential West Virginia beer that we have here, Greenbrier Valley Devil Ants.
Oh, yeah. This is one that's been around for a few years.
It's been around for a while. I believe if you ask anyone, especially from surrounding states, like if you can name one West Virginia beer off the top of your head, it's probably what they're going to...
I would say you're probably right.
Yeah, best known, most widely distributed beer is what I've always called it, but I might be wrong, but it's certainly one of the top widest distributed local beers in our state. Yeah.
And recognized outside of our state as well.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic beer. I think it's single-handedly helped put West Virginia beer on the map.
Yeah, really. And I always thought that when it was developed, the beer was more of kind of a mid-coast IPA. When it came out, there were a lot of very hoppy, bitter West Coast styles. And then the East Coast styles were just starting up probably when this beer came out. And it's more of that less bitter, easier drinking and flavorful hopped beer, not just bitter, in other words, even though it's an IPA. So it's in that more modern IPA stance, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%, Charles. It's easy drinking. It's especially if you're not used to craft beer or like this double, triple IPAs, like it's a good stepping stone.
It is. It's easy to drink. I think it's got a great flavor.
So, Smitty, how would you describe what services and the important services that a beer distributor provides in today's market?
We work to bring brands straight, into your house, into your restaurants, into your picnics, into your backyards. We work hard to promote and push brands and grow brands. That's one of our vital functions that people don't see that suppliers appreciate is we really work to grow brands.
Right.
When pen and paper, I'd say that we're just taking breweries out of the trucking business, but we really work to develop the brands.
In West Virginia, we have a 3-tier system by law, and it means that you're typically not involved in 2 different adjoining sectors, meaning if you're a manufacturer, you can't be a wholesaler. And if you're a wholesaler, you can't be a retailer of beer. Can you still go to the distributor and buy a keg direct?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that,
Yeah.
but yes, we cannot sell package direct, but we can sell kegs direct.
Yeah, so you guys, anyway, what you're doing is primarily you're buying from the suppliers, the people, the breweries, the people that manufacture or import beer, and then you're taking it to the retailers, whether it be restaurants or package stores or Kroger's or anybody that sells cans to go. How do you see the significance of that, though, in a state the size of West Virginia?
West Virginia, has a lot of logistic issues. It's hard to get from point A to point B. And, there's a lot of breweries and manufacturers making great products. And some people would never get to try them if we never loaded them on our trucks and took them to your stores.
Yeah, it sounds like, there's a million brands, and a lot of people say, well, how come we don't get this in West Virginia? How come we don't get that? But I don't think what they understand is how small our beer market is relative to, a bigger state like next door, like Ohio or something. It takes larger sales to get more variety. Isn't that true? That from a distributor too?
That is true. Even the local local breweries, there's orders minimums. We have so limited amount of warehouse space, just like a grocery store has a limited amount of shelf space, and we sort of have to juggle that. What the market wants, where we think the market is going, with what
Sure.
our suppliers are trying to sell us.
Now, I know you represent several West Virginia small breweries. What services do you provide them?
Well, Charles, we currently sell 2 West Virginia breweries, Greenbrier Valley and Free Folk Brewing, and they are both ends of the spectrum. Greenbrier Valley is a very mature West Virginia brewery that's been around since the beginning of the...
Right. The one we're drinking today, the Devil Ants IPA, yeah.
Correct. And Free Folk is a newer, smaller brewery,
Mm-hmm.
and to that point, like we can sell them as big or little as they want. Meaning,
Yeah.
if they want to be in every cold box, we have the ability to do that. And if they want to stay boutique, and
Yeah, and that's something I've wondered. These brewers all think they should maybe be sold all over the state, and they want to sign up with a beer distributor who will then take their product everywhere and sell it. But boy, that's putting a lot of responsibility on you. That's tough to sell a little tiny unknown product, isn't it? Sometimes, how do you manage that? That's all I'm thinking.
it can be tough. A lot of local retailers are, of course, more apt to support local brands that we found. But consistency is a key issue. Like your brand has to be consistent and the packaging has to be right.
Well, the beverage alcohol industry seems to always be changing. Some segments are growing while others are declining. Some specific product types or styles in specific categories are gaining momentum, and some are slowing. So that all seems like a lot to keep up with. Smitty, how would you describe the business challenges that beer distributors are facing today with that?
We are all at the same time trying to predict the future. Where is the industry going to go? What is the next latest and greatest? And there's near beer, non-alcoholics, there's THC cocktails, RTDs, and it's hard. Like, we have to keep in front of it, to remain relevant. And I tend to think that history will repeat itself. Beer's been around for 10,000 years. I don't see it going anywhere. I think that things will cycle back around.
Yeah, I know a couple decades back now, really, the craft beer industry was blossoming, and it was the one that was like spoiling some of the parties of the big beer companies, and starting to have all the momentum. And now, while it's craft beer has matured and it's not growing dramatically anymore, maybe leveled out. There you got these other new products, like you were just saying, that aren't traditional beer styles, but whether they're seltzers or tea beers, meaning THC, marijuana, I guess, whatever, hemp-based beers, things like that. It's like that seems like it's got to be a struggle for a distributor. Like, how do we know what we should be stocking and selling? What the market. I mean, how do you keep up with the market like that?
It's a constant flux, and we never know what is going to be the correct decision for us. And, from a regulatory standpoint and from a sales standpoint, like, things are always changing.
Yeah.
You just sort of go with your gut, I guess. Whenever I meet with these different supplier reps, brewery reps, manufacturers, like, you can get a gut feeling of whether they're going to be a good partner and whether the brand has potential or not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the magic of being a beer distributor. You got to have knowledge and skill. You can't buy a bunch of stuff that ain't going to sell. Yeah, well, and I know a lot of people promise, because I've been around this, and I know people promise, the supplier will promise this and promise that, and then they don't always follow through, and they make a sale, and then you don't see them for a while.
Never, yeah, they buy one lunch and make their sale, and they're off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Well, across the nation in recent years, we've noticed a trend towards fewer but larger beer distributor businesses. There's been some consolidation of distributor territories here in West Virginia in particular. How is that affecting your distributorship? And beyond that, how is that changing the layout of our beer market?
I think generally it's going to benefit the beer market. You get a lot of suppliers will avoid a market because it's difficult for them to come in and deal with 13 or 14 different suppliers as opposed to one. But at the same time, I could see where it grows so big that a lot of these little guys will never have a chance because you got one mega distributor. But it's sort of a catch-22. Like, it could go both ways. Generally speaking, I think it'd be a lot better if there was like one state distributor. Does that make sense? Like, for each main house, I guess I'll say.
Well, that's not uncommon in a number of states that are set up pretty much like that, I think.
I think I'll add, also, again, West Virginia, which all states have their unique ins and outs, but West Virginia has some challenges that, from a supply stance, if they deal with one.
Yeah, I see that. I see a tough nut in our West Virginia beer market is just the tiny size of our population base and how spread out it is. I mean, it's like we don't have big cities. We got a bunch of little towns and small cities. And they're all spread out around the place. This has to be a tremendous challenge to our beer distributors, right?
Charles, to that point, I will tell you, we have a truck that probably goes 3 hours from our warehouse before they start unloading the first case of beer.
Wow. That's quite a while.
It is. It's a haul. It's amazing to me when I get into a company vehicle that's not a semi truck. And
well, yeah, and that wouldn't be too bad if that 3-hour drive took you to Cincinnati.
Right.
But it's probably taking you like, I don't know, who knows where's
Peterstown, West Virginia.
Right.
Yeah, Peterstown, a few hundred people in the whole town. How much beer can they drink of anybody's, That's wild. Anyway, you have to make some tough calls, I guess, on what products actually get distributed because you can't just take everything. And there's not that much shelf space for craft in our market. We have a very few specialty retailers that do a lot of craft on the retail side. I mean, again, how do you manage that? I mean, how do you get craft out on people's shelves?
Charles, it's a process, especially when you look at chain restaurants and grocery stores. I will say, even the chain stores, there's some great people in place that want to support local and regional craft, and I'll throw Kroger in there.
Yeah, that's our biggest, by far, our biggest
Yeah,
retailer.
their adult beverage manager supports it, and he works. He does the groundwork that helps us push beer in there.
When it comes to beer styles, what have you seen increasing in sales, and maybe name one or two styles of beer that you've seen declining in sales across all of your book?
That's easy, Charles. It is very much imports are increasing. Imports are driving.
So they're doing that in West Virginia. You know, you wouldn't think this would be a big import state, but I mean, I know nationally, read the literature, imports are on fire right now. But even in West Virginia, our little small towns and little hillbilly communities.
It's eye-opening to me. We sell global imports in a lot of the counties that we have, and people are so inviting and excited to get it. And I see the same trend going into our local craft breweries are starting to make these traditional German styles, and it's what people are looking for. It's not just the Hispanic imports.
So you think the impact there has been both in the on-premise trade and off-premise accounts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in recent years, the overall beverage market has experienced the introduction of new but growing big segments of beverages that are encroaching on shelf space and tap handles available for craft beer. First, there's been the non-alcoholic beer segment. Now there's the ready-to-drink spirits, or the RTDs. And then, of course, I know Charles previously mentioned in the podcast, there's the THC beverages. So just curious, Smitty, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's room for everybody to coexist. We at the beverage market, we are open to what, is going to help this company exist in the future. So if that's THC, if that's, what comes around, RTDs, I tend to still think that beer, like I said, it's been around forever. It's not going anywhere. And if anything, to some extent, these beverages may bring people to beer.
Yeah, so you're primarily a Miller, and is it also Coors?
Miller, Coors, Constellation, which is Corona, Modelo.
Yeah, I mean, you got some good big brands there, but you're still interested in taking in these new kinds of products?
I've actually several agreements with THC distributors. Pabst Labs, which is a division of Pabst. We are launching St. Ides brand. They've brought St. Ides back to life as a THC cocktail.
Wow, interesting.
And we are aligned with a company called Wink, which is one of the largest producers of Delta 9 THC products in the country. They actually make a lot of their competitors.
Yeah, so I think in West Virginia, that segment, is regulated not like beer at all. And I know us brewery people, we all think they need to make sure they're not getting any break on distribution or sales rules or taxes that beer doesn't have. But anyway, that's interesting how in West Virginia, those kind of new products are apparently mostly legal. What's your opinion on how they get regulated here?
I think that we do need some regulation because it's the Wild West right now. Like they need to dial it in, and there needs to be some uniform regulation. And I think as that happens, you'll see a lot of retailers will then begin to follow. Yeah, I think some people are afraid of it, and rightfully so, because you're not always necessarily sure what's on the shelf.
Right.
We at Beverage Market, I work at vetting these brands very carefully to make sure that we only choose brands and partner with brands that are produced in commercial operations, and their product is researched through and through, and they are sure it is a safe product that they're putting on the shelf.
All right, you've heard it from Smitty Smith of the Beverage Market in Charleston, West Virginia. And we're going to take a short break in our discussion right now. We're going to have our second beer round, so I'm looking forward to this to see what Smitty's going to bring us, another product that's distributed by the Beverage Market. You're listening to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. Now back to our interview. Smitty, here we are with another glass of beer distributed by the Beverage Market, and you're going to have to explain this one. It's nice and hazy. It's all I can see.
guys, this is Flying Monkey Juicy Ass IPA. Colorful name, colorful can. This is brand, and this brewery has been a pleasant surprise for us at the Beverage Market.
What's the brewery?
Flying Monkey Brewery. It's out of, I believe, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of them, and that is a fairly new line in West Virginia, a fairly new line.
This particular beer is their flagship IPA. This is the brand that is their bread and butter. It's a fairly easy drinking IPA. It's about 6.5% alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Super hazy, like Charles said.
Yeah, super hazy, and people tend to love it, and people love to say the name of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than that, right?
How have you seen distribution and sales take off for this beer?
On premise, this brand is on fire. I mean, it's well exceeded my expectations for what it was going to do.
Well, it's interesting, because we don't get a lot of Canadian beers, in West Virginia anyway, and just wondered, what the draw is. What would you think the draw of this, and what makes it popular?
I would say the marketing behind it, the cans are crazy looking. All the names are fun. There's Sparkle Puff, Space Age, Superstar.
Yeah, so they're doing a lot of marketing work across the board.
Sure.
I
Getting
hear
some
you.
attention.
Yeah, sure. Well, anyway, I like it. It's well-made beer. Aaron, what do you? And you also have experienced in hazy IPAs.
I have, yes, I do have some experience in hazy IPAs. This one in particular, I also find very easy to drink. It's light, definitely hazy, but it's not like overly bitter. I just think it's an easy drinker.
Yeah, and really kind of in the same vein as the Devil Ants we just had. I mean, not wholly different in its presentation.
No, definitely.
I mean,
not.
it's
Just
hazy, but
different.
where Devil Ants is not a hazy.
Right. Definitely different style. I think Devil Ants has a little bit higher ABV. And to me, between the two, Devil Ants is a little bit more bitter, but not in a bad way, just
right.
to the style.
Just the balance, right.
Yeah, the difference between the hazy and the not so hazy. So, but no, both are really great choices. I see why you're happy to be carrying them.
Yeah, we've been the Flying Monkey. Like I said, impressed with its movement so far.
Well, there you go. Oh, Canada, get out here and try those Canadian beers, at least the Flying Monkey ones, in West Virginia. Well, I want to move this discussion over to your distributorship's handling of West Virginia-based brewers. I know you mentioned you had two, and I'm curious as to what a distributor actually looks for in a brewery or a product that it's considering representing.
Well, Charles, they have to make a consistent product, and obviously people also enjoy like the story behind it, and to me it has to represent something West Virginia, like really West Virginia rooted in West Virginia.
Right, sure. I mean, it would be better if it has some connection that people kind of recognize, right? I mean, like Devil Ants. I mean, that was a historic figure in West Virginia. But yeah, I just wondered, I mean, do you consult at all with small breweries who are thinking of taking on distributors? Do you help them understand the market or educate them in any way?
Especially the retail side, the on-premise side, they all have a general idea how it works, but retail, like it is always a learning experience for all of them. It's a different monster altogether. I think, I see a lot of startup breweries get in a big rush to sign a distributor. And then I see more rare is the brewery that could probably benefit from being in a distributor house that still self-distributes.
Yeah. Well, are there any red flags that are pretty sure to make a distributor run away from a brewery before they would sign them,
Yeah, when you have 20 different SKUs right out of the gate, no canning line.
Yeah. What we're seeing is somebody that's making a whole big beer board full of beers, and they want you to carry all of them and distribute all of them when they don't have any real market yet.
Yeah, not yet, and the ability to produce it too. That's the other
small
thing.
volume place, right?
Which, as I said earlier, like we can sell you as boutique as you want to be, or if you want to be in every cold box, we can do that as well.
So after you've made the decision to represent a brand, or brewery, what are the keys to building that long-term supplier-distributor relationship?
Always communication, lots of communication, and making sure that we are on the same page with them every step of the way, and make sure that we are executing to a level that they are happy with, and vice versa. Like it's really like we have to do what's best by them as well.
I definitely get that. I think in so many businesses, regardless of the actual business, communication is really just everything, especially if it's a sales relationship. So that makes sense.
I I have suppliers that would call and tell me what they have made and what's going well for them in the tap room, and they would like to expand it outside of their own tap room, and we start pushing it into the market.
Do you go in and do taste it, for example? If you have that situation, do you go in and I mean,
yeah, we prefer to taste the product. I will say that my tastes are not what everybody is buying. Like I've learned over the years, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it won't sell.
Right.
I like to think that like my vetting of brands is pretty good. Generally speaking, I mean, we all make mistakes from time to time.
We have a lot of West Virginia brewers, and maybe I don't know if it's even half of them are signed up with distributors. And it's like the ones that aren't think it's better for them not to be, because they keep all the markup themselves on on the sales. And if they sell to a distributor, they have to lower that markup a whole lot and sell it to a wholesaler. And that's a real challenge for a small guy. I mean, how do you determine whether a guy is big enough, or or what do you tell them if you think they're too small really to represent?
We essentially are taking them out of the trucking business. And I think that is an aspect of it that they don't necessarily understand. The overhead of loading a bunch of kegs up in a van and sending it halfway across the state can eat up a lot of that markup that they're keeping for themselves.
Yeah, not only that, the wear and tear on a truck, and it's the hours, even if it's the owner driving that truck up to Snowshoe Mountain. I mean, and then he's got to go home, after that. So, yeah, a lot of hours on the highway, which may not make sense if you're even a small brewery that's trying to do too much, I guess. Yeah. Okay, Smitty, I was hoping we could dig into a day in the life of a beer distributor. Okay. What's it really like to work in beer distribution? I mean, there are various types of jobs that are all quite important.
The beer distributor business starts very early in the morning, and a lot of people aren't prepared for that life or used to that life, including myself. Like, it can be a struggle at times. But, day to day, like, it can be very challenging. You're getting it from the suppliers, you're getting it from the retailers, and you sort of have to manage both sides of it. But I always tell people, and this is a quote I took from an old boss, it should be fun, and it is fun. And even the hard days, you're selling beer. Like, imagine yourself as the green bean salesman. Like, they don't get to enjoy a cold beer the same way we do at the end of a hard day.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes drinking can be part of the job. I mean, certainly sampling anyway. There's got to be people in this beer distribution industry who are kind of the unsung heroes, those who aren't in the front big name positions maybe. Are there unsung heroes at your place?
Oh, absolutely. There's the graphics department does a phenomenal job. They're always under the gun, and they produce outstanding point of sale. I think.
Well, talk about some of the things they do make. Because we say point of sale. I know what you mean, but what are some examples of the kind of things your graphics department puts out?
Posters, window mesh, social media, restaurant menus, like the list goes on. Tap handles. We make a lot of our own tap handles. I don't think people realize the expense.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
The expense of tap handles it's up there.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so all these different roles and jobs at a beer distributor, which means they've got more than just a handful of sales employees. That's not all that it's about. I mean, there's truck drivers and the warehouse folks and, Logistics manager, you touched on it, warehouse manager, like these guys all
guys and girls all just put things together. And a lot of times, like I know someone hands me a fire drill and I get upset and I turn around and hand it to somebody else. And just like sometimes I don't know how they deal with me. And
Well, Smitty, I'm hoping you can tell us something funny, unexpected, or just plain crazy that you've experienced in your career. Of course, I know you can't tell us anything that will get you in trouble, but let's get into some good stuff.
I've had people reach out. It's interesting what people will ask, or a lot of people think that like they don't realize that beer distributors, it's a thin margin, and they think we're just like rolling in cash, and just cannot wait to sponsor their weddings or
Sponsor a wedding?
I've been asked to sponsor a wedding and promised graphics, and all we needed to do
Oh, but
was
we're going to buy a couple kegs.
yeah. And I've been hit with for $70,000 someone will wrap their cigarette boat with our brands.
Oh my gosh. Like things you wouldn't even consider.
Things we wouldn't even consider. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff out there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I know that happens. Let's turn the story around, though. What are some of the things that you like to sponsor that you find, work for you guys at the beverage market?
We obviously like to be involved and sponsor community events and be part of the community that we do business in every day. We love Kegs and Canines, an event that just took place. Like that's something that's near and dear to my heart in particular.
Okay. Kegs and Canines was a little beer festival, right?
Yeah.
But go ahead and tell who it supported and why you were interested.
It supported Kanawha County Animal Humane Association.
Okay.
They do a couple fundraising events every year, and that's one of the ones that's enjoyable for us to do.
Yeah, so you guys do participate in a number of the local beer festival type events. And I shouldn't say just local Charleston, because you also do Huntington. I don't know how big an area.
Huntington, we cover 35 out of 55 counties.
Yeah, you're in most of the state. I'm talking like we're all living in Charleston and Huntington, but we're not. But yeah, so some of the other festival and events, whether they be beer specific or not, what are some of the other things that you guys play a big role in as the beverage market?
We're also involved with the state fair. That's been something that we love to be a part of, and we've grown in it every year since we've been the beverage.
I think this is State Fair week.
It is actually Lewisburg, right?
Correct. It's cranking right now, and it's just unbelievable the amount of product that we have down there and that we're moving. I never knew. I've going to the state fair my whole life, and I never realized that.
Behind the scenes.
Well, I think in recent years they've done a lot more with beer and stuff, right?
It's definitely grown. They've added a beer garden.
Yeah,
the past it's been 3 or 4 years ago.
So you find that state fair goers are ready to pull that Miller tab,
Miller and our local craft as well.
Okay, so the craft, that's not a place that I would think would probably be a huge draw. But not that you wouldn't sell craft at a state fair, because that is a big event.
We're also excited this year to be a major sponsor of Marshall Athletics.
No, talk about that a little bit. Marshall University in Huntington.
Yeah, this is big for us. We're going to be all over the football stadium, the soccer pitch, the ball fields. Like we've spent, a lot of today's, we're working on what's going where and how we're going to.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's not just a sales contract you're making with them, but I'm sure you're making a pledge of dollars to support their programs.
Correct, which builds a relationship, again, in the community. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're talking a little bit earlier, that people all think beer distributors have a lot of money. They should support my little local car sign. But yeah, it's more, you're interested more in building community, which means things like university programs or nonprofits that get the benefit, So the beer distributors, though, do you guys strategize together, or do you find that it stays pretty independent between the different beer distributor businesses?
It stays pretty independent. Obviously, there's a handful of Molson Coors houses that we work very closely with, but even that, there's lines in the sand.
Yeah, and when it comes to like and I don't know if they still are pushing that, but the Molson Coors kind of groups nationally, they've had certain craft brands they have bought through the years. Now I know they've sold also some of those. Have those Terrapin and all, have those had an impact on your business? I mean, do you see that craft coming through some of the bigger national brands has been important to you guys here in West Virginia?
Initially, as craft beer got rolling, yeah, the Terrapins of the world, the Blue Moon, if you want to call it Blue Moon craft.
Well, yeah, I would. I mean, I understand it, yeah, but it started as craft for sure. Yeah.
I think, a lot of people look at it and view it as mega brewery products, but ultimately, like the guy that was drinking Blue Moon and the girl that was drinking Terrapin, who's drinking these local made regional crafts now.
Right. No doubt about it. So I know you said you had 2 West Virginia craft brands now. Would you be open to handling more? Is that something that is in your future, you think?
I would love to talk to several of them now. And, I think there's a misconception, again, to signing with the big mega distributors. The right brewery, we don't want, like I said earlier, we don't want to crush a small business. If it didn't work, if it wasn't working for them and it wasn't working for us, I would be more than happy to let them out of that contract. And, the cost of the logistics of distributing the brands yourself, we can take them out of that and still take care of their brand and handle it with care.
Well, yeah, and help them grow. From our discussion here this evening, you said, there's a whole lot more behind the scenes that distributors do. In particular, like you talked about your own tap handles and, just marketing sheets and so many things. So it's not just taking the distribution out of your hands and the cost of that. It's more than that. It's building a relationship.
We also love, our craft breweries, even our import partners, to come in and educate our staff. I mean, I know a lot of that is what got me where I am, listening and learning and tasting and studying, and we like that education. Tell us about your brand as well.
Sure.
Well, guys, I think that's a wrap for today. I know we've just scratched the surface of the issues surrounding craft beer distribution, but I think from this discussion you can see that it's a complex business with a set of challenges that are growing, really, and not becoming easier for craft beer in certainly a small state like West Virginia, which is always a challenge. Especially when with these new categories of beverages that are aiming at craft beer shelf space. We mentioned some of those, and they want their tap handles, and it's a challenge for our craft market. So all you craft beer fans out there, make sure that you get out and support all of our real, true craft brands in West Virginia. So I want to thank Smitty Smith of the Beverage Market, beer distributor in West Virginia, for joining us today, and also give another shout out to J.P. Henry's in Parkersburg, West Virginia, for hosting this segment of the West Virginia Beer Roads.
That's right, Smitty. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time and your choice of location. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed learning about all of this distribution stuff, and I know our listeners will too. So thank you again, Smitty, and good luck going forward.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
This brings us to the close of another podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Thank you for listening to West Virginia Beer Roads.
West Virginia Beer Roads is a production of BrilliantStream.com.